Okay, before we get to NXT, which is popping, we gotta say it's popping. It's popping. I'm not saying it's a good pop or a bad pop, but it's popping. But before we get to explaining why it's popping, we need to address two situations here. Now, I could leave this for a gut report, but I'm going to be busy in the next couple of days, so I don't think I'll be able to record it. And I'm not saying I'm lazy. There's been certain things that's been going on in the last couple of weeks that have made me tired, mentally tired. So it does make it difficult to do the gut reports. I won't lie about that. There's been certain things that's happened in the background that have mentally drained me. So I'm not going to lie about that. So if you think I'm being lazy, sorry, but I'm not. But let's make this clear about the two things that need to be talked about. Nikki Bella and Odyssey Jones. Those two we're going to talk about. I know what happened with Nikki Bella and her husband, who used to be Dancing with the Stars, used to be a dancer. Technically, the police came, they found her beat up, and took his ass in. But if I remember correctly from the article, it was dropped later. I could be wrong. I'm trying to remember. I think the charges were dropped by Nikki Bella herself. Not saying that's right. I'm not saying that domestic violence is good. It's not good. You don't want that. Honestly, I'm going to say this for people who do not fully understand how domestic violence can be so bad. Because domestic violence can be both ways. And I'm one of the rare few that can honestly say I've had domestic violence done to me. Look, I'm a man. I got the equipment. I am a man. But I was taught not to hit a woman. And I've been beaten up. I've been hurt. And people kept wondering in my job, when the blue fuck am I going to kill my wife or beat the living crap out of her? I couldn't do that. That's just not me. But I had domestic violence done to me. I know what it feels like. You feel hopeless. You feel ashamed. You feel like, dude, why are you here? You feel like you want to kill yourself. Trust me, I can say that with honesty. Those thoughts went through my own head. And that happened twice where I've had domestic violence done to me. The second one was my last girlfriend that I was actually considering marrying. And I've never hurt any woman. Not once. The most I've ever done is to push him back from hurting me and try to stop him by grabbing him behind the neck here and just try to stop. That's not saying that's not violence. Many people will believe it is. But to actually pound someone into the ground, that's just not me. I don't want to hurt nobody. I don't want to see anybody hurt. But I can understand if Nikki doesn't want to press charges because she wants to try and keep a family. Now, if he is doing what he's doing, and just Alex is saying that he should be buried under the hotel called a jail, because that would be the hotel for him. That's the way just Alex would be. I can understand his point of view. But that's just me. Odyssey Jones, let's make it clear. Don't know what happened with Odyssey. When I saw the article, it didn't talk about him being having allegations for domestic violence or the claims. I didn't see that part of the article. I saw briefly that Odyssey Jones had been removed, but I had something I had to do. And I was checking something, so I just briefly saw it, and I thought I would come back to it later. So I did not see the full article. So all I knew was he was fired. But now knowing that there are allegations to possible domestic violence, no matter what happened to Nikki Bella, let's make it clear. At this point, there's supposedly allegation claims, but and understand, if I'm right, within the next couple of days, I think 2 days from now, will be the 1-year anniversary that TKO Group Holdings came into existence. No, sorry. WWE was purchased, am I wrong? I know WWE was purchased just around this time in September, if I'm right. It's been a while. And then a few days later, TKO Group Holdings was formed right after the purchase of WWE, the original. Because we don't have a WWE original. We have TKO WWE, TKO UFC, and Endeavor, along with TKO Group Holdings, which is also a part of it, which will also be considered a satellite company. But this is something you guys are going to have to get used to now, because this ain't going to end. I'm telling you right now, we going to learn what the true TKO Group Holdings is. You guys think nothing is going to change. That what happened with Triple H, now that he's the the chief creative officer, everything is going to keep going great. No. Because now that the company's been a year old where we didn't know if it was going to continue, we're going to begin to see what this company is going to really be like for wrestlers. Because right now, everything was a reshuffling of everything was going on in the company. I said this last year. I'm not going to tell you bad things will happen, but I'm telling you right now, within this next year coming, because it will be 2 years, we're going to see stuff that you're going to believe, I can't believe this happened. No one talked about it. Wrong. I did. I'm probably the only one who did talk about what's about to happen. You see now, one wrestler has now been ejected because of allegation, which is not something unusual, but we're going to see much more stuff that's going to change in WWE as a people want to say it is, but it is a corporation style-like company. They're going to do whatever Ari and the board says. Mostly Ari. Let's move on. Let's do the opening. Actually, I don't even need to do the opening because it's going to be part of the match. Okay, 3-way match for the number 1 contendership for the tag championship. We got Gallus, we had Hank and Tank, and we had the Rascals. Now, did I believe Hank and Tank could win? No. Did I believe that Gallus could win? Yes, they could win. But we've seen these type of matches between these guys multiple times, so I wasn't looking forward to it. Then there was the Rascals, and I was thinking, could they be willing to pull the trigger on the Rascals? Yes, because they want content. The CW is coming up soon. We will be having the CW very, very soon. So they're going to want to build up the content for that show that's going to be at Chicago, I believe. They're going to have it at Chicago in the CW. So they're going to want to build up as much content as possible and make it overwhelmingly a success. So we had the match, which was fine. And the thing that not many people know, which I've known for years, how the Rascals actually work, especially with Trey Miguel working with Zachary Wentz or Trey Miguel working with Desmond Xavier. What everybody just saw from the Rascals is something I've seen for years. I've said this before and I'll say it again. When it came to Zach and when it came to Trey, they are very good high-flying wrestlers. Are they good ground wrestlers? No, they're extremely high-flying wrestlers. That's what they are, just like Desmond. Desmond, or Wesley, is the best out of the entire lot. It's not just because he's a better worker in the ring, it's because he could have a much more better personality. That's how I've always seen him. That's the reason why I always say that he was my boy. I've always believed that he had something. He has charisma. He has the ability to talk. He has the way to hold a character. That's how he's always been for me personally. Taking nothing from Trey or Zach. But I knew how this was going to go if they were going to win. And next to having, well, technically, Devon Evans attacking one person, which was Joe Coffey, and the OC messing with Hank and Tank, guess who won? It was the Rascals. Now they will have their match at the CW. That's going to happen. It's not going to be in a week or two. It's going to be at the CW on their premiere. They want to have the best they got. Next, we got Oro Mensah versus the King. Now, here's the thing. Due to the fact that Nolan Dar is still not back yet. He's still out. And you got to do something with Metaphor. Particularly got to do something with Oro. I can understand why they did this. In his real life, he hasn't been treated very well. He had problems with his dad and his brother. It was not easy. But it's understandable they want to do a story with him. And since Lexus King, the former Brian Pillman Jr., does not have a dad anymore because he passed away, well, when he was very, very young, they want to try and put two guys who do not have father figures in the ring and screw one another. Now, is the story over between Mensah and King? No, because Mensah got cheated because you saw that Alexis King put his feet up on the ropes. He cheated. it ain't over yet. Sooner or later, they're going to have another match. Now, does this mean that's going to end the storyline after that match? I don't know. It counts on how far they want to stretch this. They may want to stretch it and have a closing match, maybe, on the CW. Hard to say. Third match. I'm mad. Let me give it to you like this. As I've said before, I am happy for Rosemary because as far as she's concerned, getting on WWE television, TKO WWE, she's fine with it. And I know she'd be fine with it. She doesn't care. She doesn't care if she jobs to anyone in this company. She's actually in the company. As far as I know, she's never been there. And the way they described it, she's never gone there. So as far as she's concerned, she's now appeared twice on NXT television, had a match twice. I'm sure she was loving it. But as a fan of Rosemary, who's seen her since she came in the damn company, in the Menagerie, if you guys remember the Menagerie, that pretty much had Crazy Steve, her, Abyss, and who else was in there? Oh, Rebel, yeah, Rebel was there too. I can remember. If I'm forgetting something, I'm sorry, but that's what I do remember. But guys, I do believe she was part of the Menagerie at one point. But the point is this. Rosemary is not going to complain. She's glad to get it. Any publicity for her, even if it's jobbing, is not going to bother her. But as a longtime fan, who has seen the ups and downs of Rosemary, and the guy who has been talking about how TNA has been since the beginning of this year, who's really being very, very respectful, Scott D'Amore, was fired, and it's not about if he's the best one that could have ran TNA. It isn't. He was running it. I didn't agree with him with everything he did. I've been consistent. No matter how much you wish, I would shut up. But he was consistent, and so am I. Was he great at it? No, he wasn't. But ever since he left the company, there's been a lot going on with TNA. Not all of it good. When you look at how the company's product is, they're getting this. Yes, one person said, and I'll say it again, they're getting people on the app 8 a day. I'll say that again for people who don't get it. 8 a day on an app. A multi-million-dollar company, it is 30 or 40 million or 50 million dollar company. It depends. It can be between 30 to 50 million dollar company. Has now finally started getting people to come to the app. 8 a day. Shouldn't it be 100 a day? 200 a day? Shouldn't they be getting more out of this? If you're happy to see them get 8 a day, that's wonderful, but they need a lot more than that. And after Emergence, which was an unmitigated disaster with the camera work, and then one of the cameramen simply disappeared. And also having only a few storylines that are decently good, and the rest are rehashes of what they've been doing for decades. Since they became, roughly within a decade. They've been Impact Wrestling. It's ridiculous. They haven't changed. I'm sorry. They're getting people to come in, and they're getting people going out. Mustafa Ali is gone. Trinity is gone. We don't know how long a Nick Nimbus is going to stay. We don't know how long an Asher Elegance is going to stay. And yes, John Layfield showed up on Emergence, and that's wonderful. But guess what? He was not John Bradshaw Layfield. I checked to see what was talked about. Could he be a part of TNA? No. Guess what? He can't ever use JBL. I'm going to say it again. He can only be John Layfield. He can never be JBL, John Bradshaw Layfield. He's not allowed. There's no way he's allowed to ever show any sign that he was ever JBL on TNA television. Ever. Go check on the different websites yourself, and you'll see the same thing. He showed up, yes, but there's no words about him working there. He's under WWE contract as a legacy contract, a Legends contract. He's got that. He's working for the company. He can never just say, I'm JBL. I have to be Laidfield. And there's no guarantee he will work there. He just showed up once. That's it. And don't get me wrong, that was great to see him on TNA television, on Emergence. But after what we just saw, the camera work was so horrid. It was disgusting how bad it was. I don't care what they've done the last couple of months. That was basically Impact Wrestling in a nutshell. Sorry, that's it. But, going back to where we were, seeing Rosemary was great. Upset that she lost. This is the second time she had a match, and the second time she lost. It was her versus Tatum Paxley. She did the job for Tatum. Great, but it sucks to see Rosemary again get jobbed out. And once the fight happened afterward, we get Lyra Valkyria coming back to NXT. Why is Lyra Valkyria coming back to NXT to help Tatum Paxley, who is obsessed with her in any title that, if she had it, would try her best to try and get it or be near it? Now they're just making her do this because they want to do something with Wendy Chu and Rosemary, which, I'm going to be honest here, I see Rosemary jobbing again. With Wendy Chu, whose character has actually been quite interesting. We don't know where she really sits. I'd rather have seen her deal with someone from the Wyatt Six like Nikki Cross. That's what I would have liked to see. I would have liked to see that Nikki Cross, who's in the Wyatt Six right now, and could have came back to help her. We got Rosemary, who I am glad to see, but wouldn't it have been better that she gets a rub from the main roster than a Rosemary, who looks like she's going to job not once, not twice, a third time on the NXT roster. I don't see her winning anything. And like I said, I know she's going to be fine with it. But as a longtime fan of Rosemary, that's not good for me. I'm glad to see her in WWE television. Well, TKO WWE television. But I don't want to see her jobbing her ass out. What does that give her? Yes, she's getting exposed and people are chanting her name, but that's not what I want for her. She deserves better than that. But that's me as a fan. For her, and I'm seeing by her point of view, she's getting national, international exposure, and she's glad of that. But then, does TNA benefit? Think about it, because no one seems to even say a damn word about the exposure for TNA. Yes, they get more sales on their app. 8 a day. Let's move on. Okay, the match that had an opening and then kind of not a match, but also had a match because they hate each other. Opening of the show, we got Ego Ethan Page, we got Pete Dunne, and we got Trick. Trick came out, made it clear. We need to deal with this. Come out, Pete. And his ego that comes out because he doesn't like someone taking up a spotlight. Then Pete Dunne comes out. They have a fight. Then they're separated. A little later in the show, they have another fight. Then they're separated. Then we have one more fight, and Ava says, get to the ring. I'm done with this. It's supposed to be a main event. Just get it over with. Let's go. That's what they get. They go to the ring, have the match, but then it didn't finish. Double count out. They're both counted out because they both went through the table of Vic Joseph and Booker T. And after it was done, they couldn't stand. They both couldn't finish it. They started fighting again. And now next week, I believe they're having another match, which is a last man standing match. Either that or at the CW. I can't remember. I think it's either next week, or on the CW. I could be wrong. I think it's next week. You guys can tell me below. I don't remember offhand right now. What do we got? Joe Coffey versus Devon Evans. And I've said this before and I'll say it again. What does Devon Evans actually have? At this moment, nothing. He has no character. He has some charisma, yeah. He can talk somewhat alright. But he just goes in the ring. And since he's 20, he still has a lot of time to learn, a lot of time to expand. But as it stands right now, he feels like a replacement for Ricochet. He does. He feels like a replacement that Ricochet that eventually someone's going to be replacing Ricochet, and that's Devon Evans. When they think he's ready, at least enough, they're going to want a highlight reel guy. And there you go. Devon Evans is that highlight reel guy. And the match was fine. Seeing that when the match ended and he decided not to do a 450 or a 730 or a shooting star crest, he decides to do a spin, does a side spin, like spinning around his body and lands square on top of Joe, which was quite well done. He didn't land sideways, like with his elbow going straight into Joe. He could have broke his ribs. He landed flushed, chest to chest, which was great. So Joe was okay. I was very worried when he was doing that rotation. If he did too much, his elbow will hit straight into Joe's sternum and could crack that bitch. So I'm glad that didn't happen. And let me give it to you like this. Uma Femi versus Stax Lorenzo. Let me give it like this. Do I like Stax? Yeah, I do. I've always thought Stax had a lot of character. I always thought that Stax was a good character. He wasn't the greatest wrestler, but he wasn't bad either. I always thought that when you stuck him with D'Angelo Dinero, well, I call him D'Angelo Dinero. I'm thinking about the Pope. You know why? I would love to see the Pope doing commentary and NXT. I'm not saying I don't like Booker T, but I think the Pope would be interesting on NXT. I had actually thought about that with Vic Joseph and the Pope, D'Angelo Dinero. I really believe that would be an interesting dynamic. But when you see Tony D'Angelo, he had his shot to get the North American title, did not happen. And during that match with Stax, you can see that Obafemi was burning a hole through him just to rub it in. Hell, we had him go into the family's locker room just to mess with him and then say, you know, in several cultures and countries, a woman that small would be seen but not heard. Well, that is why Stax spoke up. That is why Stax got his ass handed to him. And you can see the frustration on Tony D'Angelo's face. Yeah, he was so pissed off that Stax could not get it done. It's not his fault. Stax didn't stand a chance against the monster. Now the question is, who are they going to bring in to take care of him? Because I have this strange feeling if Tony D can't get it done, because it's going to be another match, who are they going to bring in to make it right? It's going to be a big question. Who are they going to bring in to the family that is going to take on or a stand-in for the family, who's going to take on the monster of Obafemi? Now, before we get to the last match, let me say this when it came to Ridge Holland. I did like his vid pack. I really did like it. They gave a good explanation what happened to him. They showed why he acted the way he did. And now that he has finally pulled the trigger, or HBK has finally pulled the trigger, let him be as ruthless as he wants to be. Where he keeps saying, I've been holding it in for so long, trying to be good. I'm not being good anymore. Now I'm going to chase you from the inside out. And now that we know that Duke Hudson's going to be his next opponent, I think next week, we're going to see who he's going to go through. He's going to go through Rich. He's going to go through Riley. Then he'll go through Andre Chase again, maybe at the CW. And that will be the end of Chase U, in the sense that Ridge has been built up to the point where he doesn't need it anymore. And maybe they can do something with him, maybe with the North American Championship, the Heavyweight Championship, or I don't think they will do this. They will send him to the main roster. I'm hoping they don't, because he still needs development. He needs another title. He needs an actual singles title. That needs to be done. But this is just me, guys, down below. Jada Parker versus Jasmine Nix of Fatal Influence. I believe that's the name of it. Let me give it to you like this. Did Jada Parker do a good job at No Mercy? Yes, she did. She's got charisma. She's not that bad in the ring. She does seem a little sluggish in the ring. Let's make it clear. I'm not against Jada Parker, but she uses a lot of power, no better than Lash Legends. But Lash has developed her style a little bit different than Miss Parker. Because when it comes down to it, if you compare Miss Parker to Lash Legend, Lash is more developed, along with physically being more physically stronger than Jada Parker. Jada Parker is not as strong as Lash Legend. That's not a joke. You can tell the difference. Both of them, I believe they're both basketball players. But the point here is that Jada Parker is just not as strong as Lash. I'm not saying that she can't perform better than Lash, but Lash, you can tell, is just more physically stronger than she is. And a lot of work she does, she has done some physical strong work, but let's make it clear, what has she been using as her strong arm? That ass. That's not meant to be insulting. That's not meant to be sexist. When you look at much of her moveset, she tries to use her lower half more than anything else. And particularly that she's been saying, they basically been showing that her ribs are messed up. She's done everything she can to minimize that, but she's still using her butt to do most of her work, kind of like Rikishi did. There you go. Someone else who did it. Rikishi or Umaga. Okay? But was this a good match? It felt a little slow. Honestly, it felt a bit slow. I'm not saying it was bad, but it felt slow. And in the end, after she got her ass handed to her, which she's supposed to, because Fatal Influence is supposed to get over, I will tell you this. Is Jasmine Nix over? No, she's not. Is Jada Parker over? Yes. Now the question is, what would they do with that? That's going to be the question. Finally, and just in case anybody asks, what about the Heritage Cup? What happened with Charlie Dempsey having to defend it against a Devon Evans? I'm not saying anything about it due to the fact that this is just a Heritage Cup match. Devon Evans is not the one that's being cared about here. It's about how the dynamic of the No Quarter Catch crew is. There you go, just in case you're questioning. What can I say here? Let me give it to you like this. Seeing how they rolled this at the end of the show. Seeing that close with Roxanne Perez was nice. And I know I'm not forgetting about the open challenge of Jordynne Grace. I'm not. That's a good thing to see that now, and I've even said this, didn't I say this weeks ago, that it would be good to see that they defend a title over there, like the X Division or Jordynne Grace. So now they're going to do it. I don't know who's going to be the one that's going to do the challenge. Either it's going to be from the main roster or NXT, probably NXT. It's going to be someone there. But Jordynne Grace is going to defend her title on NXT TV. The first time in history, TNA's title will be in TKO WWE. Not saying it hasn't gone in AAA and it hasn't gone to any other promotion that TNA or Impact Wrestling at the time hadn't been working with, because it's not the first time they defended it outside the borders of TNA or Impact Wrestling. It's just the first time it's going to be in this company. Just in case you thought I forgot, I did not. But what do we get with Roxanne, Chelsea Green, and what can I say this? I can't tell you that this is going to be great. Only thing I can tell you is this. Chelsea Green is going to be used. There's no way she's not going to be used for Julia to job to. The reason I hesitated here is that I want to see something more for Chelsea Green. But there's no way Julia is not going to use her to establish herself in one match before the CW It's going to happen. There's no way they're not going to use her. And they'll probably use somebody else after that. I don't know. I doubt they're going to use Piper Niven, but you never know. If they want to bring Chelsea Green in, they may bring Piper Niven in. But let's make this 100% crystal clear. What we got here is a situation in NXT that is popping off, as I said. A lot is going on before they go to the CW. I believe they're going in 2 weeks. They will be on the CW. They will be on the CW, I think, in a week or two. Is it a week or two? I can't remember. But they will be on the CW very soon. And the key of this is how much play they're going to be giving to the company, to NXT. How much they're going to try and sink into the company is known as NXT to make it as interesting as possible, so when the CW finally gets it and hits, that we get a big explosion of publicity and ratings, because that's what they want. What you're doing with Jordan Grace, I think that might happen either just before the CW or on the CW, because they want to have as much publicity as possible for NXT. They don't care. They're going to throw everything they can to build into it, and then they're going to just blow their load on CW, which is wise to do. They're going to do it. It's popping. It's popping. This is popping off. So the question is going to be, how big of an explosion will the final pop be? I can't tell you which one it is because I don't know. But I can tell you this. So far, they've been producing some interesting stuff. And I know I didn't bring anything about Josh Brooks and what's going on with Josh Brooks dealing with Sean Spears. What's going on with Eddie Thorpe dealing with Adonis. I'm not doing that now. I'm going to leave that alone because those need to develop more, because it's still like this when it should be like this. And there's more on top of that. But I'm just going to leave it. And I hope you enjoyed this review. Please give me a comment. Give me a couple of likes. Peace.